The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, a silent canvas dotted with distant stars. It was a quiet morning in the control room of Earth's orbital defense station when the sensors picked up something unusual. A ship, drifting silently toward Earth, had appeared out of nowhere. Its identity was unmistakable. It was the Odyssey, a vessel that had vanished over 200 years ago without a trace. For centuries, it had been presumed lost, its fate one of the great mysteries of human exploration. Commander Lucas Hayes stood at the center of the bustling control room, his sharp eyes scanning the screens as technicians shouted updates. He was a tall man with short brown hair and a calm demeanor, but today even he felt a flicker of unease. The Odyssey was back, but it didn't look like any ordinary return. The ship's surface was scarred, its once pristine metal hull now pockmarked and scorched. Strange markings covered parts of it, glowing faintly in hues of blue and green. They shimmered as if alive, shifting subtly whenever someone looked directly at them. "Sir," called one of the technicians, breaking Lucas's focus. "We're detecting no response to our hails." "No life signs either. Wait, correction. There are faint readings, but they're erratic." Lucas frowned. "Erratic how?" "They're fluctuating. Like something on board is interfering with our scans." The technician hesitated before adding, "And there's another thing. The ship, it's not exactly where we think it is." "What do you mean?" Lucas asked sharply. "It keeps moving, slightly, almost imperceptibly, but our instruments can't lock onto it properly. It's like it's slipping through dimensions or something." Lucas shook his head, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. This wasn't just some derelict ship floating home by chance. Something about the Odyssey's return felt wrong, unnatural. But orders were orders, and the Empire wanted answers. Turning to the communications officer, he said, "Send word to headquarters. Tell them we've located the Odyssey and request permission to send a boarding team." While waiting for approval, Lucas turned his attention to Dr. Rachel Monroe, who had been observing quietly from the corner of the room. She was a scientist specializing in alien technology, her expertise often sought after by the military. Today, however, she seemed unusually tense. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail, and her blue eyes darted between the monitors and the viewport, where the Odyssey loomed ominously. "You've seen ships like this before," Lucas said, approaching her. "What do you think?" Rachel crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "I've never seen anything quite like those markings. If I didn't know better, I'd say they're some kind of alien script or maybe something more. And the way it's behaving, it doesn't follow normal physics. Whatever happened to that ship, it's not natural." Before Lucas could respond, the comms crackled to life. Headquarters had granted permission to investigate. Within minutes, Captain Benjamin Cole arrived with his team. Benjamin was a seasoned officer, known for his discipline and efficiency. His dark eyes scanned the room quickly before settling on Lucas. "Commander," he greeted curtly. "We're ready to board." Lucas nodded. "Good luck. Keep your team alert. We don't know what's waiting for you on that ship." As the boarding party prepared to leave, Rachel stepped forward. "Captain Cole," she said firmly, "let me come with you. If there's alien tech involved, you'll need someone who understands it." Benjamin hesitated, but eventually agreed. "Fine, but stay close and follow my orders." The journey to the Odyssey was tense. As their shuttle approached, the ship seemed to grow larger and more imposing. Up close, the strange markings pulsed faintly, casting an eerie glow across the shuttle's interior. When they docked, the airlock opened smoothly, revealing a pitch-black corridor beyond. The team switched on their helmet lights, illuminating the path ahead. Inside, the silence was deafening. The walls were lined with panels that hummed softly, though none of the controls responded to touch. The air smelled stale, tinged with something metallic. Every step echoed unnaturally, as if the ship itself was listening. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered one of the soldiers, his voice barely audible over the comms. "Stay focused," Benjamin ordered, though his hand hovered near, the weapon at his side. They moved cautiously, searching for clues about what had happened to the crew. In the main control room, they found the first sign of life, or rather, remnants of it. Logs played automatically on a cracked screen, showing grainy footage of Captain Daniel Carter, the original commander of the Odyssey. His face was pale, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "We've encountered something extraordinary," Carter began. "A structure, floating alone in deep space. It's ancient, far older than anything we've ever seen. At first, we thought it was abandoned, but then it spoke to us. Not in words, but in feelings, images. It offered us knowledge, power beyond imagination." The video cut out briefly before resuming. Carter's expression had changed. His eyes were wide, almost manic. "It gave us gifts, but they came at a cost. Some of us couldn't handle it. Their minds snapped under the weight of what they saw. Others became something else. Entirely. I don't know if we'll survive this, but if anyone finds this message, please don't trust it. Don't let it take you." The log ended abruptly, leaving the team in stunned silence. Rachel broke the tension. "This explains the markings outside. Whatever it is, it altered the ship and probably the crew, too." Benjamin clenched his jaw. "We need to find survivors, or bodies. Anything that tells us what happened here." As they continued exploring, strange things began to occur. Lights flickered unpredictably and sections of the corridor seemed to vanish and reappear. One soldier swore he saw movement out of the corner of his eye, but when he turned, there was nothing there. Another claimed to hear whispers, faint and indistinct, coming from the walls themselves. Then in the engineering bay, they discovered something truly unsettling. Suspended in midair was a figure, encased in a translucent cocoon of light. It was humanoid but unrecognizable, its features distorted and elongated. The team froze, unsure whether it was alive or dead, or something in between. "What is that?" one of the soldiers whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Benjamin replied grimly, "but we're not leaving until we figure it out." Little did they realize, the Odyssey had already begun to notice them. Somewhere deep within the ship, a presence stirred, curious about these new arrivals. It had waited patiently for centuries, biding its time. Now it was ready to reveal itself, and claim what it considered rightfully its own. The team stood frozen in the engineering bay, their helmet lights casting long shadows across the room. The cocoon of light hovered silently, pulsing faintly as if alive. Inside, the distorted figure shifted slightly, its elongated limbs twitching, in slow motion. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's machinery and the occasional crackle of static over their comms. Captain Benjamin Cole was the first to break the silence. "We need samples," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. "Dr. Monroe, take whatever readings you can. We'll secure the area." Rachel nodded, stepping forward cautiously. She pulled out a handheld scanner and began analyzing the cocoon. The device beeped erratically, its readings fluctuating wildly. This isn't normal," she muttered under her breath. "It's like it's made of energy, but also matter. I've never seen anything like it." As she worked, the rest of the team fanned out, keeping their weapons trained on the cocoon. One soldier, a young man named Kyle, couldn't tear his eyes away from it. "Do you think that used to be one of the crew?" he asked nervously. "Maybe," Benjamin replied, "but we won't know until Dr. Monroe finishes her analysis. Stay sharp." Rachel ignored the tension around her, focusing intently on the data scrolling across her scanner. Her brow furrowed as she noticed something unusual. "There's a pattern here," she said aloud. "These fluctuations, they're almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat." Before anyone could respond, the cocoon pulsed brighter, startling the group. For a brief moment, the figure inside seemed to open its eyes, or at least what passed for eyes, and stared directly at them. Then just as quickly the light dimmed and the figure returned to its dormant state. "What was that?" Kyle gasped, taking a step back. "I don't know," Rachel admitted, lowering her scanner. "But it reacted to us. It knows we're here." Benjamin clenched his jaw. "Let's move. We've seen enough. Grab what you can and head back to the shuttle." But before they could leave, the ship itself seemed to protest. The lights flickered violently, plunging the room into near darkness. The hum of the machinery grew louder, almost deafening, and the walls began to shimmer unnaturally. It felt as though the entire structure was shifting, bending reality around them. "Stay together," Benjamin shouted, trying to keep his voice steady. "Don't lose sight of each other." The team retraced their steps, moving as quickly as they dared. But the corridors no longer looked the same. Sections of the wall phased in and out of existence, revealing glimpses of unfamiliar rooms filled with strange alien devices. The air grew colder, and an unsettling sensation crawled over their skin, as if unseen eyes were watching them. "This isn't right," one of the soldiers muttered. "We're not alone here." "No kidding," Kyle snapped. "Did you see those walls? They're changing." Rachel glanced around, her mind racing. "The ship, it's adapting. It's reacting to our presence. Whatever happened to the original crew, it infected the Odyssey itself." They finally reached the control room, hoping to find some answers among the logs left behind by Captain Daniel Carter. Rachel activated the console again, sifting through fragmented recordings. Each log painted a clearer picture of the crew's descent into madness. In one entry, Carter described how the alien structure had opened itself to them, offering visions of infinite knowledge and power. "It showed us wonders beyond comprehension," he said, his voice trembling with awe. "But every gift came with a price. Some of us couldn't handle it. Their minds shattered. Others changed. They became something else, something more." Another log revealed that the crew had attempted to resist the entity's influence, sealing off parts of the ship to contain its effects. But the effort was futile. The entity spread relentlessly, consuming everything in its path. By the time the final log played, Carter's voice was barely recognizable, reduced to a hoarse whisper. "It's inside me now. I can feel it growing, twisting. If anyone finds this, don't trust it. Don't let it take you." The recording ended abruptly, leaving the room in eerie silence. Rachel turned to Benjamin, her face pale. "This thing, it's not just a machine or an alien artifact. It's alive, and it feeds on human ambition, fear, maybe even belief." "That doesn't explain why it brought the ship back," Benjamin countered. "If it wanted to destroy us, it could have done so centuries ago." "Maybe it didn't bring the ship back," Rachel suggested. "Maybe the ship found its way home on its own. Or maybe it wants something from Earth." Her words hung heavy in the air, unanswered. Before they could discuss further, strange symptoms began manifesting among the team. Kyle complained of a headache, pressing his hands against his temples as if trying to block out a noise only he could hear. Another soldier reported seeing flashes of light in the corners of his vision, even when he closed his eyes. Benjamin noticed subtle changes too. His reflexes felt sharper, almost unnaturally so, and he caught himself thinking faster than usual. At first he dismissed it as adrenaline, but deep down he knew better. The ship was affecting them, all of them. "We need to leave," Rachel insisted. "Now, before it's too late." Benjamin hesitated, torn between duty and survival. Headquarters expected results, but staying any longer felt like signing their death warrants. Finally he nodded. "Agreed. Let's get back to the shuttle." Their journey back was fraught with peril. The ship continued to warp and shift around them, forcing them to navigate increasingly unstable corridors. At one point, they stumbled upon another cocoon, this one containing a figure that resembled a child. Its small hand pressed against the translucent barrier, reaching out as if pleading for help. None of them dared approach. When they finally reached the docking bay, relief washed over them, at least until they saw the shuttle. It was partially submerged in a pool of liquid metal, its surface rippling like water. The sight was both mesmerizing and horrifying. "What did it do to our ship?" Kyle demanded, panic creeping into his voice. "It's testing us," Rachel said grimly. "Trying to see how far we'll go." Benjamin stepped forward, examining the shuttle carefully. Can still use it, he declared after a moment. The controls are intact. We just need to get it unstuck. Working quickly, the team managed to free the shuttle, though not without difficulty. The liquid metal resisted their efforts, clinging stubbornly to the hull as if unwilling to let go. By the time they climbed aboard, everyone was exhausted and shaken. As the shuttle detached from the Odyssey and began its journey back to Earth, Rachel gazed out the viewport at the massive ship drifting behind them. Despite its battered appearance, it radiated an aura of power and menace. She couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't escaped. Not really. They'll want to study it, she said quietly, breaking the silence. The Empire will send ships, scientists, armies. They won't stop until they understand what it is. And when they do? Benjamin asked, his tone grim. Rachel turned to him, her expression grave. Then they'll unleash something they can't control, something that might destroy us all. No one spoke after that. The weight of their discovery settled heavily on their shoulders as they hurtled toward Earth, carrying secrets that could change the course of humanity forever, or doom it entirely. The shuttle carrying Captain Benjamin Cole, Dr. Rachel Monroe, and the rest of the team landed on Earth with a soft thud. As they stepped out onto the platform, the bright sunlight felt strangely unwelcome after the eerie darkness of the Odyssey. The air smelled fresh, but none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched, even here, millions of miles away from the alien-infested ship. News of their return had already reached headquarters, and within minutes, a convoy of black vehicles arrived to escort them to a secure facility. Soldiers in crisp uniforms surrounded them, their faces unreadable behind mirrored visors. Benjamin exchanged a glance with Rachel. Both knew what was coming next. The Empire wouldn't waste time asking questions. It wanted answers, and it wanted them now. Inside the facility, they were taken to a large briefing room where high-ranking officials waited. Among them was General Marcus Hale, a stern man with graying hair and an intimidating presence. His cold eyes scanned the group before settling on Rachel. "Dr. Monroe," he said, his voice sharp. "Tell us everything." Rachel hesitated, glancing at Benjamin for support. He gave her a subtle nod, signaling her to proceed. Taking a deep breath, she began recounting their experience aboard the Odyssey. The strange markings, the cocooned figures, the shifting corridors, and the logs left by Captain Daniel Carter. She described how the ship seemed alive, reacting to their presence and altering its environment in ways that defied logic. "And you believe this entity is responsible?" General Hale asked, leaning forward slightly. "Yes," Rachel replied firmly. "It's not just technology or machinery, it's intelligent, possibly even sentient, and it thrives on human emotions like fear, ambition, and curiosity." Hale's expression darkened. "You're suggesting we can't study it safely?" "I'm saying we shouldn't try," Rachel countered. "Captain Carter's logs made it clear. The cost of interacting with this thing is too high. It corrupts anyone who gets close." Before Hale could respond, another officer interrupted. "With respect, Doctor, we don't have the luxury of ignoring it. This kind of power could ensure humanity's dominance across the galaxy. We can't let fear stop us." Benjamin clenched his fists under the table, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. He'd seen firsthand what the Odyssey was capable of, and he knew the risks far outweighed any potential reward. But arguing with the Empire's leaders was pointless. They only cared about control and conquest. Over the next few days, the Empire wasted no time mobilizing resources. Scientists and engineers swarmed into labs, analyzing every scrap of data brought back from the Odyssey. Fragments of alien tech were dissected, tested, and replicated, or at least attempted to be. Rachel found herself reluctantly assisting, though she grew more uneasy with each passing day. The experiment started small, focusing on recreating the energy patterns observed on the ship. At first, nothing happened. The equipment hummed quietly, producing no results. But then, during one late-night trial, something changed. A burst of light erupted from the test chamber, blinding everyone in the room. When the glare faded, one of the researchers was gone, vanished without a trace. Panic spread quickly through the facility. Security tightened, and whispers of sabotage circulated among the staff. Rachel tried to warn them that the technology wasn't meant to be tampered with, but her concerns fell on deaf ears. The Empire saw the incident not as a warning, but as proof that they were close to unlocking its secrets. Meanwhile, Benjamin noticed troubling changes in some of the personnel involved in the project. One scientist, a quiet woman named Emily Dawson, began exhibiting unusual behavior. Her reflexes became unnaturally fast and her eyes glowed faintly in low light. When questioned, she claimed to feel different, as if something inside her had awakened. Others reported similar symptoms: heightened senses, bursts of strength, vivid dreams filled with incomprehensible shapes and colors. Rachel confronted Emily privately, hoping to understand what was happening. Sitting in a dimly lit corner of the cafeteria, Emily spoke in hushed tones. "I've been having these visions," she confessed. "They started after I handled a piece of the cocoon material. It's like the ship is talking to me." "Talking to you?" Rachel repeated, her heart racing. "What does it say?" "It doesn't use words," Emily explained. "It shows me things. Vast spaces, infinite possibilities. It promises knowledge, power. But there's always a price. I can feel it pulling at me, trying to change me." Rachel placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, her mind racing. "You need to tell someone. This isn't safe." Emily shook her head. "They won't listen. They think they're in control, but they're not. The entity, it feeds on them, on their greed, their hunger for more. And once it takes hold, there's no going back." As days turned into weeks, the situation grew worse. More accidents occurred in the labs, each one deadlier than the last. Equipment malfunctioned, causing explosions that injured several researchers. Some claimed to see shadowy figures moving through the halls at night, while others reported hearing voices whispering their names. Lucas Hayes, still stationed at the orbital defense post, received updates on the chaos unfolding below. Though officially uninvolved, he couldn't ignore the growing unease gnawing at him. The memories of his own encounter with the Odyssey haunted him, the way it seemed to watch, to wait. Something about it felt personal, as if it had marked him somehow. One evening, Lucas decided to visit the facility himself. Using his rank to gain access, he made his way to the lab where Rachel worked. She looked up as he entered, surprise flickering across her face. "Commander Hayes," she said, forcing a smile. "What brings you here?" "I need to know what's really going on," Lucas replied bluntly. "The reports I've read don't add up. People are disappearing, getting hurt, and no one seems to care." Rachel sighed, running a hand through her hair. "It's worse than you think. The entity, it's influencing them, changing them. Every experiment pushes them closer to losing themselves completely." Lucas frowned. "And the Empire? Do they know?" "They suspect, but they don't care," Rachel admitted. "To them, this is just another weapon waiting to be built. They'll keep pushing until it's too late." A sudden commotion outside interrupted their conversation. Alarms blared and shouts echoed down the hallway. Rushing to the door, Lucas and Rachel saw soldiers scrambling toward the main lab. Smoke billowed from the entrance and flashes of light pulsed erratically within. "What's happening?" Lucas demanded, grabbing a passing technician. "The core, it's unstable," the man shouted back. "Something triggered a feedback loop. If we don't contain it, it could destroy the entire facility." Without hesitation, Rachel grabbed a protective suit and joined the emergency response team. Inside the lab, chaos reigned. Researchers scrambled to stabilize the glowing orb at the center of the room, which pulsed wildly, emitting waves of energy that distorted the air around it. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the floor trembled beneath their feet. Rachel spotted Emily standing near the core, her eyes glowing brightly now. She appeared entranced, her hands raised as if communing with the entity. "Emily!" Rachel called out, rushing toward her. "You need to stop. You're making it worse." But Emily didn't respond. Instead, she smiled faintly, her voice barely audible over the noise. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "So much knowledge, so much power." Realizing she couldn't reach her friend in time, Rachel turned to the others. We have to shut it down. Cut the power. No, General Hale barked, storming into the room. This is our chance. If we stabilize it, we'll have unlimited power. You'll destroy us all, Rachel shot back, desperation creeping into her voice. Don't you see? It's using you. For a moment, Hale hesitated, torn between ambition and survival. Then, with a roar of frustration, he ordered the technicians to continue their efforts. The core surged brighter, its energy spilling outward in violent arcs. The walls shimmered and warped, reality itself beginning to unravel. Lucas acted quickly, pulling Rachel away from the danger zone. We need to get out of here, he shouted. But Emily, Rachel protested, looking back at her friend. She's gone, Lucas said grimly. There's nothing we can do. Reluctantly, Rachel followed him as they fled the collapsing lab. Behind them, the core exploded in a blinding flash of light, engulfing the facility in chaos. When the dust settled, the Empire's prized experiment lay in ruins, along with countless lives lost to their own hubris. As Lucas and Rachel stood outside, watching the wreckage burn, Rachel whispered, "This isn't over. The Odyssey will come for us again. And next time we might not be so lucky." Lucas nodded silently, knowing she was right. Whatever force drove the Odyssey wasn't done with humanity yet, and when it returned, it would demand a reckoning. The destruction of the facility sent shockwaves through the Empire, both figuratively and literally. The explosion had been visible from miles away, a fiery beacon that drew attention from every corner of the planet. News outlets scrambled to cover the event, though official statements were vague and contradictory. Some claimed it was an accident during routine testing. Others whispered about sabotage or alien intervention. The truth, however, remained buried under layers of secrecy and fear. For Rachel Monroe, the aftermath was unbearable. She sat in a small, dimly lit apartment provided by the military, staring blankly at the wall. Her hands trembled as she replayed the events in her mind, Emily's eerie smile, the glowing core, the screams of those trapped inside. She couldn't shake the feeling that she'd failed. Not just Emily, but everyone who had trusted the Empire to handle the Odyssey's secrets responsibly. Lucas Hayes visited her often, bringing updates from his position at the Orbital Defense Station. He tried to reassure her that the Empire's grip on the situation was slipping, but Rachel wasn't convinced. "They won't stop," she said one evening, her voice hollow. "They'll rebuild, try again. They'll keep chasing power until there's nothing left." Lucas didn't argue. He knew she was right. The Empire thrived on control, and the promise of godlike technology was too tempting to ignore. Already rumors circulated about new facilities being constructed in secret locations, far from prying eyes. Scientists who had survived the disaster were reportedly being relocated, their knowledge forced into service once more. But Lucas also knew something else. Resistance was brewing. Quietly, cautiously, people were beginning to question the Empire's motives. Among them was Captain Benjamin Cole, whose loyalty to the regime had begun to crack after witnessing the horrors aboard the Odyssey. When he reached out to Lucas, proposing a meeting to discuss options, Lucas agreed without hesitation. The rendezvous took place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was a cold, damp space, its walls lined with rusted metal and broken machinery. Benjamin arrived first, his face grim as he paced back and forth. When Lucas and Rachel entered, he stopped abruptly, his sharp eyes scanning them for any sign of betrayal. "You're taking a big risk coming here," Benjamin said, his tone measured but tense. "If they find out, they won't," Lucas interrupted firmly. "We've covered our tracks. Now tell me why you called us." Benjamin hesitated before speaking. "I've seen what they're planning. New labs, bigger teams, more aggressive experiments. They think they can tame that thing, but they're wrong. It'll consume them just like it did before." "And you want to stop them?" Rachel asked, stepping forward. "I want to survive," Benjamin replied bluntly. "And if stopping them is the only way to do that, then yes. But I can't do it alone." Rachel exchanged a glance with Lucas. Both understood the stakes. Joining forces with Benjamin meant openly opposing the Empire, a death sentence if caught. But doing nothing meant letting the cycle continue, risking even greater catastrophe. What do you have in mind? Lucas asked finally. Benjamin pulled out a small device, placing it on a nearby table. It was a data chip, glowing faintly in the dim light. This contains everything I've gathered so far. Blueprints, personnel lists, security protocols. If we hit the right targets, we can cripple their operations before they escalate. Rachel picked up the chip, examining it closely. How reliable is this information? It's solid, Benjamin assured her. I copied it directly from their mainframe, but we'll need help, people we can trust. Lucas nodded thoughtfully. I know someone who might be willing to join us, Sarah Mitchell. She's a pilot, one of the best, and Ethan Blake, he's a hacker. If anyone can get us into their systems, it's him. Good, Benjamin said. We'll need all the help we can get. But time is short. They're moving fast. Over the next few days, the group assembled in secret, piecing together a plan. Sarah Mitchell proved invaluable, her sharp wit and resourcefulness helping them navigate the Empire's increasingly tight surveillance. Ethan Blake, a wiry man with a mop of unruly hair, worked tirelessly to decrypt the data chip, uncovering hidden details about the Empire's plans. As they prepared, Rachel found herself reflecting on Emily Dawson. Though her friend was gone, her warnings lingered. It feeds on belief, Emily had said. Those words haunted Rachel, echoing in her mind whenever doubt crept in. Was their resistance futile? Or could they truly make a difference? One night, as the team reviewed their strategy, Sarah spoke up. There's something we're not considering, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Even if we destroy their labs, even if we shut down their experiments, the Odyssey is still out there. What happens when it comes back? The room fell silent. No one had an answer. The ship itself was a mystery, its intentions unknowable. All they could do was focus on the immediate threat, the Empire's reckless pursuit of power. Their first target was a research outpost located deep in the mountains. According to Benjamin's intel, it housed a prototype weapon designed using fragments of the Odyssey's tech. The weapon was unstable, prone to catastrophic failures, but the Empire saw it as a stepping stone toward harnessing the entity's full potential. The infiltration went smoothly at first. Using Ethan's hacking skills, they disabled the outpost's security systems, allowing Sarah to guide them through the labyrinthine facility undetected. Inside, they found rows of sleek black machines humming softly, their surfaces etched with the same shimmering markings seen on the Odyssey. This isn't just a weapon, Rachel whispered, running her fingers over one of the devices. It's alive. Before they could act, alarms blared, shattering the silence. Soldiers poured into the room, weapons drawn. Benjamin raised his hands slowly, signaling the others to stay calm. We're too late, he muttered under his breath. A standoff ensued. Outnumbered and surrounded, the team braced for capture, or worse. But then, something unexpected happened. The machines began to pulse, their markings glowing brighter with each passing second. The soldiers froze, their expressions shifting from aggression to confusion, then terror. What's happening? One of them shouted, dropping his weapon, as sparks flew from the nearest machine. It's reacting to us, Rachel realized, her voice barely audible over the chaos. It knows we're here. The air grew thick, charged with energy. Lights flickered violently, and the walls seemed to warp and twist. For a moment, it felt as though the entire facility was collapsing inward, folding into some other dimension. Then with a deafening roar, the machines exploded, engulfing the room in a blinding flash of light. When the dust settled, the soldiers were gone, vanished without a trace. The team staggered to their feet, shaken but alive. Whatever had happened, it wasn't natural, and it wasn't entirely their doing. This changes everything, Benjamin said grimly, surveying the wreckage. The entity, it's fighting back. Not just against us, but against them too. Rachel nodded, her mind racing. It's not on our side, but it doesn't belong to the Empire either. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. They made their escape, slipping past stunned survivors and fleeing into the night. The weight of their mission settled heavily on their shoulders. The Empire would see this attack as an act of war, doubling down on their efforts to exploit the Odyssey's secrets. But the team had struck a blow, one that proved the entity couldn't be controlled. Back at their hideout, they regrouped, discussing their next move. Each member carried the scars of what they'd witnessed, but determination burned in their eyes. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for humanity's future. "We can't let them win," Lucas said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. "If we do, we lose more than just ourselves. We lose everything." Rachel looked around the room, meeting each person's gaze. "Then we fight," she said simply, "no matter what it takes." And so, the resistance began. United by shared purpose and driven by the memory of those lost to the entity's influence, they vowed to stand against the Empire's greed and ambition. Their path would be dangerous, fraught with uncertainty and sacrifice. But as long as the Odyssey loomed in the distance, watching, waiting, they knew they had no choice. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, hope flickered in the darkness. The Empire's response to the attack on the research outpost was swift and brutal. Within hours, security checkpoints sprang up across major cities, soldiers patrolling the streets with orders to detain anyone suspected of dissent. Propaganda broadcasts filled the airwaves, framing the resistance as terrorists bent on destroying humanity's progress. The message was clear: obey or face consequences. For Lucas Hayes and his team, staying hidden became nearly impossible. Their safe house, a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood, was compromised when an informant tipped off the authorities. They narrowly escaped capture, fleeing into the night with little more than the clothes on their backs and the data chip containing vital information about the Empire's operations. As they regrouped in a secluded forest cabin, tensions ran high. Supplies were low and morale was even lower. Sarah Mitchell paced restlessly, her sharp eyes darting toward the windows every few minutes. "We can't keep running," she said sharply. "Sooner or later they'll find us." And then, "What?" Ethan Blake snapped, his voice tinged with frustration. "We fight? With what? We're outnumbered and outgunned." "We fight because we have no other choice," Benjamin Cole interjected firmly. His tone left no room for argument. "If we give up now, everything we've done will mean nothing. The Empire will keep experimenting, keep pushing until it destroys us all." Rachel Monroe sat quietly in the corner, her mind racing. She knew Benjamin was right. They couldn't afford to quit. But fear gnawed at her. Every step they took felt like walking deeper into a trap set by forces beyond their understanding. The entity aboard the Odyssey wasn't just a passive observer. It was actively shaping events, using both the Empire and the Resistance as pawns in its own mysterious game. "What if we confront it directly?" Rachel asked suddenly, breaking the silence. All eyes turned to her, startled by the suggestion. "Confront it?" Lucas echoed, frowning. "You mean go back to the Odyssey?" "Yes," Rachel replied, her voice steady despite the unease bubbling inside her. "Think about it. Every experiment, every attempt to harness its power, has ended in disaster. The entity thrives on ambition and greed. It feeds on those traits. But what if we approach it differently? What if we show it that not all humans are driven by those desires?" Benjamin shook his head skeptically. "That's a huge risk. For all we know, it could consume us the moment we step foot on the ship. It already has," Rachel countered. "It's been influencing us since the day the Odyssey returned. Hiding won't change that. If we want to stop the Empire and protect humanity, we need to understand what we're dealing with." After a long pause, Lucas nodded slowly. "She's right. Running isn't going to solve anything. If we're going to end this, we need answers. And the only place we'll find them is on that ship." The journey back to the Odyssey was fraught with peril. Imperial patrols scoured the skies, forcing Sarah to navigate their small shuttle through treacherous asteroid fields and dense cloud cover. By the time they reached the derelict vessel, everyone was exhausted but resolute. As the shuttle docked, the familiar hum of the ship greeted them, vibrating through the soles of their boots. The corridors were darker than before, the walls pulsing faintly with an eerie blue light. The air smelled metallic, carrying a faint electrical charge that made their skin prickle. "This way," Rachel said, leading the group toward the central chamber where they'd first encountered the glowing core. Her steps were deliberate, her expression unreadable. Deep down, she feared what awaited them. But she also felt a strange pull, as though the ship itself was guiding her forward. When they entered the chamber, the sight took their breath away. The core had grown larger, its surface swirling with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and dance like living art. Around it floated several cocoon-like structures, each containing humanoid figures suspended in translucent light. Some appeared human. Others bore grotesque alien features. "It's beautiful," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. "And terrifying." Before anyone could respond, the core pulsed brightly, bathing the room in radiant energy. A voice, not spoken aloud but resonating directly in their minds, addressed them. "You have returned," it said, its tone neither friendly nor hostile. "Why do you seek me?" Rachel stepped forward, her heart pounding. "We came to understand you," she replied aloud, her voice steady despite her fear. "To learn why you've brought suffering to our world." The core shimmered, its colors shifting rapidly. "Suffering is not my intent. You sought me out, craving knowledge and power. I merely responded to your desires. But you corrupted us," Benjamin shouted, his anger boiling over. "You destroyed lives. I offered gifts," the entity countered calmly. "It was your inability to comprehend them that led to ruin. Ambition blinds, fear consumes, belief warps reality. These are truths you must face." Rachel raised a hand, silencing Benjamin before he could argue further. "Then teach us," she said firmly. "Show us how to coexist without destruction." The core pulsed again, this time more softly. "Coexistence requires sacrifice. Are you prepared to relinquish your ambitions, your fears, your beliefs, to exist purely as you are?" The question hung heavy in the air. Each member of the team wrestled with their thoughts, memories of past failures and regrets flooding their minds. For Lucas, it was the guilt of following orders blindly, sacrificing countless lives in the name of duty. For Sarah, it was the loss of friends during missions, gone wrong. For Ethan, it was the isolation he'd endured, hiding his true self behind masks of sarcasm and indifference. Finally, Rachel spoke. "Yes," she said, her voice unwavering. "We are ready." The core brightened, enveloping them in warm, golden light. Images flashed before their eyes, visions of infinite possibilities, of worlds untouched by greed or hatred. They saw glimpses of themselves, stripped of doubt and fear, living harmoniously with the universe around them. But the vision didn't last. As quickly as it began, the light faded, leaving the chamber dim once more. The core's glow dimmed, significantly, its energy seemingly drained. "What happened?" Lucas asked, blinking against the sudden darkness. "The entity showed us what could be," Rachel explained, her voice soft. "But it also revealed something else. It can't help us unless we change ourselves first. Humanity must evolve or perish." Benjamin clenched his fists, frustration evident on his face. "So we're back to square one. How do we make people see that?" Rachel turned to him, her expression resolute. "By showing them. Not with words, but with actions. We start small, spreading awareness, resisting the Empire's influence wherever we can. Over time, maybe we can inspire others to follow." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "Sounds like a long shot." "It is," Rachel admitted, "but it's the only shot we've got." As they prepared to leave the Odyssey, the ship seemed quieter, almost peaceful. The markings on the walls had stopped shimmering, and the hum of machinery had softened. For the first time, it felt less like a predator and more like a guardian, watching silently as they departed. Back aboard the shuttle, the team shared a moment of quiet reflection. The journey ahead would be difficult, perhaps impossible. But, for the first time, They felt a glimmer of hope, not because they had defeated the entity, but because they had begun to understand it. And sometimes, understanding was enough to spark change. The shuttle carrying Lucas, Rachel, Benjamin, Sarah, and Ethan streaked through space, leaving the Odyssey behind. The ship had grown smaller in the viewport until it disappeared entirely, swallowed by the vastness of the cosmos. But its presence lingered in their minds, a constant reminder of the choices they had made, and the sacrifices yet to come. Back on Earth, the Empire's grip tightened. Propaganda flooded every channel, painting the resistance as dangerous radicals bent on halting humanity's progress. Soldiers patrolled the streets, rounding up anyone suspected of dissent. Fear spread like wildfire, choking out hope and driving people deeper into submission. For the team, staying hidden was no longer an option. Their attack on the research outpost had exposed them, forcing them to operate in the shadows. Supplies dwindled, and trust became harder to find. But despite the odds, they pressed on, determined to fight back against the Empire's tyranny. Their next target was a massive facility buried deep beneath a mountain range. According to the data chip, it housed the Empire's most advanced experiments, machines powered by fragments of the Odyssey's technology. Destroying it wouldn't end the Empire's efforts, but it would buy them time. Time to spread awareness, to rally others to their cause. The plan was simple: infiltrate the facility, plant explosives, and escape before the entire complex collapsed. Simple, but far from easy. Security was tight, with automated drones and armed guards stationed at every entrance. Even Sarah, skilled as she was, couldn't guarantee safe passage. "We'll need a distraction," Benjamin said during one of their planning sessions, something big enough to draw their attention away from the main entrance. "I can handle that," Ethan offered, his fingers flying over a portable terminal. "I'll hack into their systems, trigger alarms, maybe even disable some of their defenses. It won't last long, though." "Long enough," Lucas replied firmly. "We move fast, stay quiet, and get out alive." The mission began under the cover of darkness. Ethan worked his magic remotely, breaching the facility's network and setting off a series of false alarms. Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to respond, leaving gaps in their defenses. Seizing the opportunity, the team slipped inside, moving quickly through dimly lit corridors. Rachel led the way, her scanner pinpointing the locations of key labs and storage rooms. They planted explosives strategically, ensuring maximum damage without risking structural collapse that could harm nearby civilians. Every step felt heavier than the last, the weight of what they were doing pressing down on them. As they neared the central chamber, a cavernous room filled with glowing machines, they encountered their first real obstacle. A squad of elite soldiers blocked their path, their weapons trained on the intruders. There was no time for stealth now. "Go!" Benjamin shouted, firing his weapon to provide cover. The others sprinted past him, dodging bursts of energy as they made their way into the chamber. Inside, the machines pulsed erratically, their alien markings shimmering with an intensity that made Rachel's skin crawl. "These things are unstable," she warned, her voice rising above the hum of machinery. "If we don't destroy them, now they'll tear this place apart." Working quickly, they set the final charges, arming the explosives with timers set to detonate in 10 minutes. But as they turned to leave, the machines reacted violently. Sparks flew and the air crackled with energy. One of the devices exploded, sending shards of metal flying in all directions. Sarah cried out, clutching her arm where a piece of shrapnel had struck her. Blood seeped through her fingers, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. "I'm fine," she insisted when Lucas tried to help. "We need to go." They retraced their steps, fighting their way through waves of soldiers who had regrouped. After realizing the true nature of the attack, each step felt like a battle, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm them. When they finally reached the exit, relief washed over them, until they realized someone was missing. "Where's Ethan?" Rachel asked, her voice trembling. Benjamin froze, his face pale. "He stayed behind to finish hacking the mainframe, said he'd catch up." Without hesitation, Rachel turned back, ignoring the protests of the others. She couldn't leave him behind, Not after everything they'd been through. The facility shook around her, walls crumbling as the countdown ticked closer to 0. She found Ethan in the control room, frantically typing commands into the terminal. His face lit up with determination, sweat dripping down his forehead. "I'm almost done," he said without looking up. "Just need a few more seconds." "You don't have a few more seconds," Rachel snapped, grabbing his arm. "We have to go." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Together, they ran toward the exit, dodging falling debris and bursts of energy from malfunctioning machines. Behind them, the central chamber imploded, the force of the explosion propelling them forward. They emerged into the cool night air just as the ground beneath the facility gave way, swallowing it whole. Flames licked at the edges of the crater, lighting up the sky like a beacon. For a moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath and watching the destruction unfold. In the weeks that followed, news of the attack spread rapidly. The Empire attempted to suppress the story, but whispers of rebellion ignited across the planet. People began to question the regime's motives, inspired by the courage of those who dared to resist. Lucas, Rachel, Benjamin, Sarah, and Ethan continued their fight, operating in secret while rallying others to their cause. They knew the road ahead would be long and perilous, but they also knew they weren't alone anymore. The seeds of change had been planted, and with care and patience, they might grow into something greater. One evening, as they gathered around a makeshift campfire, Rachel spoke softly. "We've lost so much," she said, her gaze fixed on the flames. "But we've gained something too. Hope. And as long as we hold on to that, we can keep going." Benjamin nodded, his expression resolute. "For Emily," he added quietly, "and everyone else who didn't make it." "For all of us," Lucas agreed, raising a hand to shield his eyes from the smoke. "And for everyone still waiting to see the light." As the fire burned lower, casting flickering shadows across their faces, they sat in silence, united by purpose and driven by the memory of those who had sacrificed everything. The battle was far from over, but for the first time victory felt possible. Out in the depths of space, the Odyssey drifted silently, its core dim but still alive. It watched, waited, and remembered. Humanity had taken its first step toward understanding, and perhaps redemption.